Good afternoon. Welcome. My name is Takeshi Moro, the artist. The artist behind the Benign Neglect photography exhibition. Closer? Yeah. Really? Okay. Joined here with me today is Dennis Makishima, the actual person behind the Benign Neglect Bonsai, and Kenny Murakami, who is a horticulture expert and former proprietor of Moraga Garden Center. Both share many things in common, one of which is that I work with both of them to create books. Before we continue, I'd like to acknowledge our supporters today. First, National Japanese American Historical Society. They are hosting us today here at the exhibition. And where is Roz? Roz, Tonai, and her team. I can't thank them enough for hosting us. The San Francisco Arts Commission for sponsoring the exhibition. Koho San Francisco, Japantown, a community arts organization in Japantown, and headed by the fearless Susie Kagami. They are live streaming this event on Facebook today. Silk Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship at Santa Clara University, they are the sponsor for the event today. And last but not least, Sling Books. The wonderful Vivian Sling. She is here with us. She's responsible for publishing the book. And she's also selling the book here today for the book signing. So thank you for coming, Vivian. So today's format, I'd like to go through some questions based on some themes. And I want to do the book signing at some point. And I also want to open up the floor for questions and answers. I'm acutely aware how popular Dennis and Kenny are, so I'm sure that you have questions for them. In this room, I know that we have all kinds of constituents. The Kenny fans, the Dennis fans, my friends, people interested in bonsai, pruning, horticulture, all of the above, perhaps none of the above. That's okay. I'm going to try to do my best to accommodate most of those interests so that we have a good time together. So, without sounding like a Jeopardy show, I want to go through three big themes and some questions based on that. The first one is, well, we're in a historical society building, so let's talk about the history, the background. You know, specifically to Japanese American history. These two gentlemen here are Sansei, correct? Sansei is Issei so third generation Japanese American. So, and they both happen to grow up in California. They both happen to go to Cal. Anyway, so there are a lot of similarities that I like them to talk about, how things came to be. So that's the background. The second thing, I like them to talk about the entrepreneurial mindset. We have students from Santa Clara in the business school. We have entrepreneurs here. And I too have a business background. And I'm interested, not so much in the nitty-gritty of business, but to help the future generations, how they thought about business. Because I think they both were very successful in very different ways. And when I talked to them, I thought they had really great ideas to share. And then the third thing is obviously horticulture and bonsai, not to mention the bonsai outside. So those three things are the themes that I'd like to try to explore. And then again, I'd like to open it up for questions and answers. So, okay. So first of all, I'm learning about your family background. As I said, both of you grew up in Berkeley, post-World War II, as Sensei. Kenny, you went to Berkeley High, you went to Cal, majored in bioscience. You took over your father's business in 1981, and for 40 years you operated Moraga Garden Center, sharing your horticultural, 40 years. You're not. When I interviewed you, I think you talk a lot about growing up in Berkeley as a sensei. So I was wondering if you can just give us a brief background of your family and perhaps what led you to carrying on your father's business.
I knew I had to talk a lot, so I probably wouldn't come. But yeah, Dennis and I both grew up in the Japanese American community in Berkeley. He was older than me, so I didn't actually get to know him back then. But when I met him later on, he was like just an old Berkeley homeboy. He was this famous guy, and despite all the accolades, he was just like the guys I used to grow up with. So Berkeley, the Japanese community in the East Bay was very vibrant back then. The churches, community groups, JCL, Optimist Club, sports teams, social events, community service projects. So that's the kind of environment we grew in. You can see that actually in Dennis's work because he did a lot of community-based stuff. He organized pruning crews to take care of the Japanese Koreans in local churches. He talks to like seniors, youth groups, kind of like a bonsai ambassador. I guess I'm talking more about him. It's actually his show. I just kind of came along for the ride. How do you say go on?
Hello? That's worse. I need to speak into it. My parents were both Issei and both went to camps. My family was actually all over the place. I had relatives in Topaz, Gila River, Trudy Lake, someone in Arizona. Anyway, they were in multiple. Anyway, I met Dennis at the nursery. And I actually met Takeshi at the nursery too. So we were kind of in a practical nursery. From a business point of view, too much inventory, too much variety. We had a lot of stuff that Dennis could use, and Takeshi actually first came to the business because his wife wanted a ume tree. And he couldn't find it anywhere. He finally called me up and actually had 3 different varieties at that time. So we had a lot of stuff like that. We had like these wasabi plants, sancho, shiso, myoga, things that were hard to get stuff. And Dennis would come in and buy stuff for his clients' gardens and also for his demonstrations. And then he would also have pruning clinics for people that already had some knowledge. And so he'd buy things that he could show them how to prune. He also came in and bought stuff from himself. Usually kind of weird stuff. He bought a cotinus smoke tree. And when he bought that, I thought, no, you don't bonsai that. Because it's got like big leaves, it's stiff. When you cut it back, it puts out branches that are at an awkward angle. But later on, I went to his house and he showed it to me. I was like, wow, that's really cool. He said, so you actually have some skills. You're not just full of hot air. Very challenging. But that's how Dennis was. He challenged himself. I mean, the guy in his position, not too many people who are going to teach him something. So you got to teach yourself. So how do you teach yourself? Challenge yourself. You go beyond what you already know, and that's how you learn. And that's actually the most impressive thing about Dennis. I think he wanted to continue to learn, even though he had this great body of knowledge. He actually continued to learn. So he tried to screw the old new trick kind of thing. He is old. He is a dog. That's why I'm talking about you. That's the old Berkeley vibe coming out. What the hell am I going with this? Oh, so Takeshi asked me to write a foreword for his book. I was honored to do that. So basically, my job was to take Dennis's thoughts and translate them into standard English. So, you could talk now.
Well, for those of you who do not know Dennis, so perhaps don't know his bio, well, it's quite a rap sheet, so it's hard for me to go through all of this, but let me try. So Dennis was born and raised in Berkeley as well, to a sansei, as a sansei. His mother and father were Kibe. Kibe means born in the US, educated in Japan, returned later to the US. Graduated from Berkeley High School, just like Kenny, and went to Vietnam to serve in the US Army. Graduated from Cal in Columbus. Yeah. Dennis is probably, is known for two or more things. One is being the pioneer of aesthetic pruning. So these are ornamental trees, 15 feet in height. But he defined the concept. He coined the term and defined it. He said it's a joke, and I didn't get it at first. It's like the ladder's 10 feet tall, and then he's 5 feet tall, so that's why it's up to 15 feet. You can elaborate on that.
5'2".
He created the nationally renowned, maybe internationally renowned, aesthetic pruning program that's at Berry College. Mentored over 100 apprentices, has pruned over 10,000 trees, including trees in the Japanese tea garden in San Francisco, the tree that Walt Disney himself personally planted in Disneyland, Ruth Bancroft's garden, and the list goes on. Approximately 2 years into Dennis's aesthetic pruning practice, he met Mas Imazumi, a bonsai master, and from that he took up bonsai. He ended up in Toyohashi, Japan, to learn more about bonsai. And then when he returned, he traveled the world, giving workshops, aesthetic pruning, bonsai. He was in leadership positions at the Golden State Bonsai Federation for over 20 years. So the list goes on. But anyway, going back to the Sansei experience at Berkeley, I guess I'll give the mic to you.
Thank you. And before I start, it's nice. I have my thoughts, and all of a sudden, you three came in, and all this disruption, phone going off. Oh, that's okay. At first, I thought I might be underdressed, but then I seen Kenny. That's okay. Just a little background. I went to Longfellow Grammar School in Berkeley, in South Berkeley. I went to Virginia High, and I went to Berkeley High. So the common thread is Berkeley High. Of course, I'm older, but I never knew him. But I was pretty cool, I was like in crowd, Other people. rock and roll boy, Motown, Berkeley in the 60s. You know, but I was a kind of a dead end kid. You know, I got drafted in 66, and you know, I wound up in Vietnam. But it's an experience. Since we're talking about the old pines, I want to fill in some blanks. About 9 months in country. Until that time, I got to Christmas Eve, 66, and I came home Christmas Eve, 67 from Vietnam. And then I took an R&R to Japan, 9 months in country. It was actually too late. You're supposed to leave like halfway through. R&R is just kind of, you get a vacation from being in the military. And I was 19, and I had an aunt. She worked for Japan Airlines at that time, and she just kept badgering me to go to Japan. Don't you want to see what Grandma was born? Yeah, are you nuts? See what Grandma was born? I want to have some fun, you know? I was thinking about going to Thailand or Hong Kong. Gee, she just kept sending all this information about Japan. So I went, and you know, I never made rank. I was always like basically a corporal. I ran the whole section. I was in Signal Corps, but I ran the whole section. It's the Central Island area. A lot of activity there, and by attrition, you advance to leadership positions because by law, you couldn't stay in Vietnam for any more than a year. Not like World War II, it's indefinite. But you could go home and come back or re-up. I can't do that because I took R&R so late. The first 9 months, as a teenager, you have this mentality, if it's your turn to die, it's your turn. What are you going to do? You know, I can't just sit there and hide someplace. You're active duty. So I came back, I had like 89 days to go. Then you get paranoid. You sit there and talk. I don't want to go now. You know, so the last 90 days was just agonizing. You keep looking at the watch, the calendar, oh God. You know, some boys over there, you know, he's set to run for the bunkers. But one of the states is, I made a pledge to myself. I said, if I ever got out of this mess, life is too short. You know, so I got home, and you know, my whole career has been like that. I just go, go, go. And I just fell into a lot of things that were just great. And my career, I mean, I did go, I guess it was like maybe you can call it post-traumatic stress, I don't know. The first 2 years back home, I just couldn't adjust. I just head out to the desert one time. And I wasn't suicidal, but I figured if I reached the East Coast, and I couldn't figure out what I wanted to do, it was really just come home. Just keep on going, you know, there's the Atlantic Ocean there, I don't know. But it just happened, I went to a place called Issei, it's in Arizona. And it's like I guess Navajo, it's like a cliff dwellings. And I sat there for like, you know, on the other side of the hill, and I sat there for like 2 or 3 days, and what's next? And then, epiphany, but it's like on, you know, what am I doing? I made a promise to myself, you know, let's get it together, so I just sat myself on the back of the head, got in the car, came back home, got the GI Bill, wanted a cow, because I grew up in Berkeley, you know, political science seemed like a nice, logical tie into all experience, you know, free speech, Mario Savio, Man on the Moon, Kennedy assassination, Vietnam, hippies. You know, I grew up in South Berkeley, it was mostly a black community. So it was like, you know, I grew up with Motown, and it was like, we just partied all the time. You know, we're not dead-end kids, but, you know, like the previous, I was not the third generation, but there's an older group of us. Those who were born before World War II. Still Sanseis, but then they were under the Moris or the values of kind of like the second generation. So no one embarrassed their parents. I grew up, you know, a lot of guys got arrested for fighting or doing all kinds of stuff. You I saw Daniel around here. He introduced himself to me. I recognized his face. That's when I saw him about 50 years ago. I knew his brother, but he's one of the older senseis. Born like 39? 42, okay, that's pretty good. People who have, our parents who had kids while they were interned, in a living dormitory style, and you can procreate, they are good, man. So I was part of a generation that, our group, the baby boomers, we came back and there was no expectations on us. It was just like a rebirth for our parents. They came out of internment, and part of these times is that story, is they planted seeds, just kind of like start over. And the community went in. When they came back, no one's going to do public speaking, stick out. So everybody they spent a lot of time setting things up for us kids. I was like 8 years old. In 1955, my father died. He was a gardener. He couldn't get any other job. He just got sick, like flu, and then he kept working, turned pneumonia, and then it turned into meningitis and other things. So you got to feed the family. So, he died suddenly. But that left me to just I can't say on the street like I was homeless or something. Like my mom was a house manager. She was working all the time. So I wanted to give you this background because that's how I approach these old pines. And you respect those who did it before. So I wrote in some of your books, this is not the story of, not only the story of the journey of these old bonsai pines, it's a story of people. And it's some of the first generation Japanese Americans and some of the second. And why 1950 was significant, because that's when bonsai kind of had a rebirth. People came out of internment kind of had nothing. My parents lost everything. And all the gardeners who kind of gravitated toward bonsai, they planted seeds, but they couldn't afford anything else. So mostly pine seeds and maple seeds. And the maple seeds were prevalent all over the place. It's easy to sow them, and that's why you see so many, in the old days, you see maple forest bonsai. They grab a whole bag of seeds and put them in sow them, and all of a sudden these things start coming up. Instead of separating each one out, or digging these little seedlings out one at a time, they just plant them all, and then it keeps it into a natural forest, a natural looking forest. And the only drawback was they're all the same size. Okay, realistically, we have one like the mother tree, or something bigger, and different size curves. But these are all like, pencil size, but still significant of the generation. So I tried to gravitate to this talk because I felt that my birth, 47, it's like a rebirth for the whole Japanese American experience. People come back and they start all over again. I say it that way, it sounds nicer because I didn't want to be a mistake or an afterthought. There's a purpose for being born. And I mentioned aesthetic pruning, and there's a lot of my former apprentices all here. Some of them, I trained 105. I wanted to stop at 100 and years right there. She snuck in at 101, and then she brought it to other people. And this is going to be my, I'm out of it. I don't do bonsai anymore. It's not like I don't like it. I set a 4-year goal, my own collection. I wound up with all total about 1,000 trees. But 650 I deemed as bonsais. They conform to the art form, and they told a story. They were, I had a collection that was pretty well, not only nationally known, but I had a chance to study with one of the leading bonsai masters in Japan. And boy, I was selected to go. Not because of my talent, because I can verbalize things. So the Japanese professional organization, they wanted somebody that can not only learn the techniques but pass them along. And I was the catalyst of something that was almost was totally against. I don't know how this came about. I like the old look. In Japan, and nowadays it's all the contemporary style. Just beautiful work, technically. It's just like perfectly perfect, immaculate. You look at the old look, you know, at these times, on that way, the exhibit. To me, they're imperfectly perfect. So there's a big difference when we talk about these things. And then I can't call it the old look, I call it a look, not an old style. It wasn't a style, it wasn't like these old times we went to school, class, or just the way they look now, it wasn't taught in Japan. And it might have been looking like that, like the Meiji era, or like 1890 or something like that. The reason I'm kind of gagging here is I just got back from Rio. I partied. Partied to my voice went out.
I'll let you rest a little bit. Maybe we'll go back to Kenny. About Sansei. Because sports was a big part of your life, wasn't it?
What's that?
Sports.
Oh, yeah. We all played sports. We had baseball teams, basketball teams. In fact, Dennis and I didn't know each other back then, but we were probably about 1 degree of separation. House was Louis, who learned bonsai from his son was on my baseball team. The basketball coach, his son was on my basketball team. So there were connections all over the place. Because, you know, that was a pretty tight community. If you didn't know somebody, you knew somebody who knew somebody. But going to that kind of environment was good because back in those days, you know, Asians were kind of accepted but not accepted. You know, you're still different. You're still not the same as everybody else. But having that kind of upbringing and playing sports and going to church and that kind of thing really gives you a sense of community. And that's something that I'm really grateful to have growing up in that era. And that kind of thing, unfortunately, is disappearing now. But for me and Dennis, growing up in that kind of environment, it really helped me in the long run. You know, Dennis was the older crowd, and my mom used to always say, "Don't act like them." So, you know, I tried to be exactly the opposite. You know, study hard, you know, be good, don't get into trouble. Let's see what else. I don't like talking about myself.
You know, and we appreciate you. You know, I have to say that the basketball league is still going strong.
Yeah, basketball is still pretty good. You know, they don't have as many teams as they used to, and as many age groups as they used to. And the baseball has really shrunk too. So, you know, we have to travel too. We went down to play a championship game down in Los Angeles. And basketball, there's tournaments all over the place. Fresno, Sacramento, things like that. So it was a good time for us to be growing up.
I think Dennis is getting ready for something, but before we do that, because that will be in the third section, I want to talk a little bit about the business part of this. As I said, I think both of you are so successful with what you did, and maybe we'll carry on with Kenny. Your business, I don't mean to be rude, it was never really a Home Depot or Lowe's in the best light. It was probably the anti-Lowe's and any of these commercial big box nurseries. It was very special, niche, perhaps, community-oriented. I guess this is my way of saying it wasn't a money-making machine that some of these retailers are. And I wondered if you wanted to talk about that, because I know you have your philosophy.
Well, you know, I was fortunate that I found my passion early on. Elementary school, we did a project, and we did a mayonnaise jar, and you line it with a paper towel. You keep it moist, and then you put your little seed in between the glass and the paper towel. Kali, the baby comes down, I mean, the radical comes down, and the Kali into the leaves come up. So, I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. So I took it home and planted it in the garden, and it turned out to be zucchini seed. So now I'm getting like all kinds of zucchini, and I'm like, whoa, this is so cool. I'm a great gardener. So I started planting vegetable garden. So I planted vegetable garden every year. So we go on vacation to Disneyland, and it's hot. I'm this little grumpy little kid, and I'm standing in line behind this big fat guy, and my head is like right at his butt level. And I'm thinking, God, I hope great water my vegetable garden. So I was more worried about my vegetable garden than about having fun at Disneyland. So I was lucky in that thing carried, that kind of passion carries around my whole life. So medicine was really a passion project. It wasn't a business project. It was a, if you get my business model to a business school, it's really stupid. Because it wasn't practical. But if you're going to do like Home Depot, why do that? You're just a clerk. And you go to Home Depot, nobody knows anything. Another thing about our industry is we always want to have good information, good scientifically sound information too. Gardening has been considered kind of pseudoscience. There's actually a lot of real hard science behind horticulture. And my background is in biological sciences. And some people think, oh, you don't need to do that for horticulture. But it gives you a good kind of solid framework for future learning. It's like you have a house that has all the frames, and then later on you learn stuff and then you fill it in. You put the walls, you put in lights and electricity, and plumbing and everything. So it really gave me a good foundation for future learning. We had really ridiculous assortment of plants. But that's made it fun. You gotta have fun. You can't be serious all the time. You have to enjoy what you're doing. Because if you enjoy what you're doing, it's easy to go to work the next day. If you hate what you're doing, a lot of my friends did not like their jobs. They just work for vacation time. I'm going to work and then I get to go on vacation. I always look forward to going to work every morning. It's your turn.
Well, I will interject a little bit because I don't know if many people know this, but you were a manager at a produce store before you started aesthetic pruning, correct?
Yes.
I want you to talk about that experience too, because I think it carries over in terms of your professionalism, the unique perspective that you have about building business.
Okay, I'll make that part brief. But I was, part of my story is I've always been in the right place at the right time when something spectacular happened. Good or bad. I used to be a young child in the 50s, in the Japanese American community turned inward. Our parents started baseball leagues for us, basketball, like maybe basketball in 8 divisions. Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, all the churches had dances for us. All the churches were like in inner city areas, so it was, did a lot of partying. In those days, I had like Elvis Presley hairdo, black shirt, black socks, black sweater. That was cool. Good. And all the steps. And then the 60s, growing up in Berkeley as a teenager was incredible. And in the 70s, I graduated from UC Berkeley in political science, and this is parallels to the science today. When I finished this part about the pine bonsai and the oak group, you will actually could be the foremost experts in this field. No one knows it, no one talks about it, and the old style, the old look is vanished. It's a contemporary world, and people, I'm not that biased against what's happening nowadays. Contemporary is contemporary, and it's a new look, and that's what's out of Japan. And the whole world's going this way. So you can be on a soapbox and talk about the old look, and no one cares. Which is why, it's my time to quit talking about this stuff. I know, and I have some, one or two students, former students that care. That's okay. I mean, caring is one thing, but you need to practice. If you don't practice this art form, it's like talking to nobody, you don't grasp it. And I will cover things like minimalism and essence of a tree, and native space. But it all started like, in the 70s, I met my wife at UC Berkeley. And if you're going to be an expert in this field, I was the expert at Cal as a junior about the Vietnam War. I wasn't like I went down to interview people in the villages or get calm or anything. But I was a humanitarian. I mean, I wasn't mean and cruel. You treat people like people. But when I got to Cal, they closed the campus down. It was called Reconstitution. The U.S. had just invaded Cambodia, and the school was still going on, but it wasn't a formality like a regular semester. I was in my poli-sci classes, and all these people who were younger than me, talking about Vietnam, and we should do this, and we should do that, that's what the Vietnamese people want. You're talking out your butt. You don't know what they're talking about. I was there. People, they were agrarian people. They don't care who's in the government, whether we're Catholic or Buddhist or communist or Democratic. Just let us farm and fish. That's all they care about. So when I started talking about these things, I became like the resident expert. Of course, I gave me an easy A in my classes. I knew more than a professor when talking about Vietnam. So you become intimidating. So like today, if you want to talk about the old pines, the old look, it'd be scary. If you want to continue this art form as it is, then you are the keeper of the flame. And it's not a look. I mean, it's not a style. It wasn't like these old timers got together. They wanted to. This is the look. It just evolved through benign neglect. But I keep going back and forth because my passion was to. I'm not a historian. I was just a keeper of the flame for the last 40 years. I researched everything I ever did and produced. We did very well. We were actually nationally known. I was a photo store in North Berkeley. They call it now the area, the Corley Ghetto. There's something down there now. It was a photo center, Japanese, Big by the Tail, the Cheese Board, Eats Coffee. We all started together and formed this little North Berkeley community. And I was there. I was at ground zero. With the produce guy, but I did my research. I did have my connections in Los Angeles, the produce market down there, which is much bigger than anybody else has in the United States. I had a friend that was a truck driver. He drove cut flowers from Hayward to LA Flower Market. Produce market's next door. I said, can you swing by and pick up these, 20 different kind of berries and 20 different kind of mushrooms and no one ever heard of or used basil. We buy fresh herbs and of course we work closely with Japanese and RCs and all the restaurants, and we just became very famous. And I went down to LA. There was a place called Gelson's Market. They were like the king. They were like, you never see a produce display until you see Gelson's. The one I went to with Gelson Century City, they catered to the Beverly Hills crowd. It was just fantastic. It's like going, I did bonsai, and I went to Japan, and I saw real, $1 million trees. On these pictures, it doesn't do justice to the size of those trees that I had in my collection. some of the trunks about that big, and they weigh about 80 pounds. And if you look at the picture, I had a little tiny thing there. But once you see perfection, this is what I was taught to me, you know what you're striving for. You don't know what perfection is, you have no idea. I want to be perfect. I saw perfection in the contemporary style. In some of these old pines, I've seen perfection in the old look. What they did in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s. And then anyway got wiped out. In the 80s, this is, no one cared about that old Japanese American look. It was actually being trashed. That's all country bumpkin stuff. What we do nowadays, it's all much more sophisticated. So like these trees, I donated all of them for a fundraiser for the Golden State Bonsai Federation. It was an auction. They felt that the trees, my collection was worth it. So instead of being on a land sale, they were all auctioned off. They made about $500,000 from that. Along that becomes the pots, the stands, and other things that you need to put on a formal bonsai display. And this all goes back and forth about something that the produce didn't go out of fashion, but then it goes into these terms of mass production or this. No one's going to go to LA and get these special things. I had truck farmers. In Alameda, A Farm Island, San Leandro, San Lorenzo, Hayward, Castro Valley, they were farms. People would cut up their cauliflower in the morning and bring it up to us. That day, it was like, really the origins of a farmer's market. And one of my big claims to fame was this one guy came in, he was like a derelict kind of guy. He had this machine. Geez, this is a very interesting concept. Hey, it cost me like $1,000 in those days. It was that orange juice machine. Put the oranges on the top and they come down and then it squishes them and then, you get these little plastic containers, half gallon, you fill them all up. I had to hire a full-time person just to squeeze orange juice all day. But that was, that's the stuff that we did. And I used that experience when I'm talking about I have students, but I don't call them, I'm not an instructor. I just go instructors instruct. That's all they do. I was at Cal, I had big old rooms, and I had like 500 students in there. Some guy down there, you can hardly see them, doing a PowerPoint. I just do that, just give them the notes on it. I don't have to come to class. And I teach for teachers, but then, while you're in a class, they try to individualize you and help you. And once you leave, it's kind of like, that's it. I care about you while you're in the classroom. And they really want you to learn, but it doesn't go any further than that. Like in Japan, I was I was an advanced person when I went to Japan. I mean, I had been doing bonsai for 15 years, but on a very serious level. I took heavy workshop, I knew all the instructors, I joined 8 clubs, I practiced day and night. I had 1,000 plants in my backyard. That's only way you don't learn, hands-on. And I found out one thing about Japan and the bonsai versus, there's 3 different things. If you want to study from one of the old-time Japanese American guys, Isseis, they don't communicate very well. Just reaching for pearls of wisdom and they don't come. Then you go to Japan, the onus is on you as a student. You don't get it, it's your fault. This is not a classroom in bonsai, these are masters. Masters do masterful work. You got to be sharp enough to figure out what the hell they just did, why they did it, the philosophy behind it, and what the tree's going to look like 10, 20, 50, 60, 100 years from now. You don't do that, then they'll send you home. Here in America, it's like teachers, if you don't learn, man, you're a big idiot. They're obligated to help you. Let's get over this. They want to teach. You may not want to learn, but they want to teach. So I decided that the category for me was mentoring. You know, I think I took personal interest in everybody's lives. This business too is, you can't be doing running tree pruning and work for a firm. You're self-employed. You can't do business. You can't do this kind of work. You can't sell yourself. Or you're too shy, or you're too aggressive, too abrasive, you're too rough with the tree. You're too conservative. You charge too much. You charge $100 for that thing. Well, we got to eat. Oh, it's hot. I'll just leave the tree alone then. Let the tree have benign neglect. But mentoring is something that I enjoyed it. So it's not like you retire and that's it. I got involved in people's lives and I enjoyed it. I wrote like Anne sitting right there. You had the calendar. Not a calendar, but the pictures. She was like, what are you, number 104?
103.
103. Finish the 103. But she, it's nice because she keeps you young. And when I was first teaching bonsai, I put the old quotes in there, and you learn some realism too about bonsai, the profession. I was, Kenny being out here, I used to be famous. I teach these workshops, and it was like 10 people for a workshop, and these are old guys, all-headed guys. And then this one guy, Mark, he was our headliner of one of our conventions, and he was a professional bonsai, so he toured US several times, and I would hire him for the Golden State Bonsai Federation to do workshops. One time I was doing my workshop, and I looked at his, there was all these beautiful women in there. And this guy was like 30, blonde hair and long hair. Look at my group of 80-year-old bald-headed guys. Hey, that's business, But anyway, so the students are trained not only in aesthetic pruning, but some principles in bonsai. I didn't expect them to pick up the art form. There's certain things in bonsai that you learn that you can apply to pruning work, like depth of field, proportion, scale, the feelings, the moods, tell the story. Is this tree found on the coast, the mountains? Is there snow sitting on the branch? And it falls into the Japanese aesthetic because you have to read into the tree. You can't put snow on the branch here and show the bonsai. It's what you envision, what you can, where that tree tells you where it's from. And it's the will to live. So getting into the progression of my thing from produce, I worked on my French tree. He was a plumber. The whole group was just, we were all getting kids, but this was the alpha male. He had a shotgun wedding. He said, well, I can't make it as a pump and gas at a gas station, so he got into the trades. He was doing very well. He made a lot of money early and retirements and stuff. And so he got the other guys into the trades. So my best friends, there's 2 sheet metal guys, 1 electrician, 1 plumber, and a lot of auto mechanics actually in the group. And I was in produce. And I'm lucky, my wife and I, we worked hard. We both had pretty successful careers. She was a CFO for a pretty large corporation before she retired. And we bought our house after the first year of marriage. And then my friends, they fixed my plumbing, they fixed this, fixed that. I had to reciprocate. I can't bring you a box of watermelons. Hey. My friend had a pine. He was in Australia, and he bought a house that already was pretty landscape, but in a Japanese style. And why you find these kind of houses in El Cerrito? There's a story. It's like the Berkeley group. We lived in an area where it got pretty rough in the middle 60s, the late 60s. So someone left. And then someone else leaves. And also the fabric of the community breaks down. And churches are still there. There's 5 churches within basically a mile of each other. So, but then a community moved, and also sort of like, you know, the houses were between $30,000 and $49,000 in those days. And I bought mine for $49,000. The other big migration came from Richmond at the same time. A lot of Japanese lived in the Richmond housing projects. That's for the old poor whites, the southern blacks. They all came to the Richmond shipyards. And after World War II, you know, other people moved back to where we went to other places where the jobs were, and the black community stayed in Richmond. So the Japanese and the black community, we, you know, they all lived in the same housing. But that got kind of rough too after a while. So they moved to El Cerrito. So that's why there's a lot of Japanese kind of houses and gardens in El Cerrito. There was this big mass migration. And I moved to El Cerrito. But my friend, he had a house on Cutting Boulevard. It was a nice pine right off his driveway. And I was all pruning a pine. He had the saws out, and plumbing tools work on this pine. Look, I don't know what I'm doing. I actually hated plants. My father was a gardener, and I don't have my father. I was kind of, you know, he seemed mean and cruel. I was embarrassed by what he did. What'd your mother do? Oh, she cleans houses. Oh, God. So I pruned the pine. It's just common sense, logical thought, patience. If you don't know, I'm not going to take the big saw out. It's like a bad hairdo, man. Just take it out of here, just cut it back. And for some miracle, he talked to other friends and the auto mechanic, and he said, "Hey, you know, Dennis is doing tree pruning now." Really? I am. And also, this auto mechanic, he wanted me to work on his parish tree, which was in Albany. And it just happened that tree was 300 years old, a red pine, very rare. So the first pine for my friend, it was a Japanese black pine planted by his uncle, Takeshi Moro, who had to be the most famous Northern California bonsai masters. You know, and he's a landscaper. So I worked on Toshi's tree, and I worked on this old red pine. It was reputed to be from the World's Fair, but you know, there's no documentation, so you gotta treat it that way. Everybody thinks they got this rare thing. And then the third tree was the Japanese black pine in El Cerrito. Really nice one. Nice red leafy maple. You know how to work on maple? Yeah, I know that. Hey, just cleaned it up a little bit. I did this RPS. I did all that up. Didn't know what I was doing. You know, I just make sure that the client is talk and well, this is going to be a 3-year plan, so you're going to have me back for 3 years in a row. And, you know, I'm not going to charge you the big bill first. I just charge you in increments of a third. You know, so the bill was small, and I didn't push myself. I didn't do something I didn't know what to do. So they came to so Kathy's here. She was one of my regional accounts from Berkeley. I didn't know anything. I talked to her, and I was still working at the produce store. So after lunch, I run down to her house and work on a pine. It might take me 3 times, lunch hours. And I'm still helping her out. Yeah, like 40 plus years later. We'll never catch on, boy. It must be good. She was one of my original accounts in that first year. So that's business. You know, you take a chance. Don't do anything dumb. You know, if I was like Kenny, I would be talking about all these little fancy cow mediums or whatever all it is. This is bark, this is a brand, that's a needle. But it's just like this common sense. You just talk to people at a level that I can get my message across and they understand what I'm talking about. But getting to these, my approach turned, when I did one side, I went to Japan, I came back, I had to make a decision. do I do the contemporary style, which I appreciate, or do I do the old Japanese American look? So I chose the Japanese American look. You know, I was able to find my niche in there. You know, I lectured and I was in Italy, Spain, Germany, Japan, Australia, New Zealand. But you could talk about the essence of a tree. It has nothing to do with the technique. It's just, you know, what the tree exudes and the message you want to get out. So this is a that's a picture of a contemporary tree. It's juniper. There's this question. I mean, you can look at this. This was a recent exhibition held in Holborn by one of the sponsors of this was Dennis Makishima, and he's a terrific bonsai master. He studied from this guy named Boone Art, and Boone was one of my bonsai basic students. You can tell these people are a lot better than I am. You got a lot, even though they're starting, you got talent. You know, the idea was just get them started and get out of the way. Well, I'm not humble. But you can recognize these things, and then but now the contemporary style, you know, these new artists, they just, on one hand, if I can speak honestly about this, you know, they have their own, they study the formal styles of Japan, and they come back, they are great in this own style. But, you know, I have conversations with a lot of them, and most people in their late 30s and 40s now, they teach around the United States, they got on their websites and how to do bonsai, you know, on their, what do they call it? But the two criticisms I have, and I'm glad this is on photographing this stuff, because this is, you know, probably the last time I'm ever going to talk about this, unless I do it again. But you know, so last time you got to say what you got to say. You got to say it from your heart. I said, you took these old bonsais, and I'm sure everyone that's in the was and changed. So the attitude now, this is country bumpkin stuff, and if we just have our hands on it, you know, we can make it really nice. Of course, it's to the contemporary style, which says a lot of detail wiring, carving, a lot of stretching the envelope there. It's like you put it in fancier pots, more artistically designed pots, and half crescents, you know, rather than a standard pot, multi-pot. But this goes into the difference now with what is contemporary. And one thing I really didn't like was you can't. You're a prerogative to call it whatever you want. But is it your choice if you buy the Mona Lisa and change it? Or if you buy a Frank Lloyd Wright house and modernize it? You know, so I know this is going on, so I had to put my own terminology on a lot of this stuff. So I call the old look folk art. It's still art. It's the time, you know. It's gone. Enjoy it. But you know, if you own the tree, you know, in bonsai, you know, you're prerogative, you can change it. But in the real art world, you know, you really can't change some of these. You should. You know, you get ostracized. You might get sued. You might get a lot of stuff. But in bonsai, I feel, you know, well, you know, trees grow all the time. They live. They branches die off. They change. But the essence won't change. So what happens in the contemporary style that they're super fed, super cared for. You know, they get this really lush green, and it's a horticultural wonder what they can do. You know, the best pots, the best soils, the best everything. And then, as a contrast, I feel like these old pines, look at those pictures on the wall, a lot of them look kind of yellowish. You know, so it's not healthy. But that's your perspective. You know, you see something dark green that's supposed to be ancient. You know, it don't look right. oh, this is from the mountains, and but it's bright green. It's like having a toupee on it. Geez, the old look is more like Benign Neglect. Not pampered, branches die off. What is the purpose of mentioning branches dying off? It's that they create a space. And if you artistically say that's a negative space, kind of like it's a void. It's there. It's just you just look at the branches. This whole look is more like you look at the voids, and it invites you in. It's a philosophical thing. It's like a room. You go into it, and then it's a dream world. And that's how I look at these old trees. The old timers, they didn't talk about that stuff. It just happened, because of Benign Neglect. They just didn't pamper the trees. And you got to remember, these are people that a generation that not quite starving, but they had lost everything, and they're trying to feed the family, and they can't, sit there and work on the trees all day. And this wire that they use now, it's copper wire, but it's a needle, so it's soft when you put it on. And it firms up when you break the needle, when you crack it a little bit. Okay, that's it. The old style, why the old timers were good at this, because they cut the darn tree like 50, 60, 70 years. You neglect it, or like us, if you're not in the bonsai, you neglect your tree, it's probably dead like in 3 months. You can't keep it indoors, you can't overwater it, you can't underwater it. And each fertilizer is in a sterile mix, it's in a pot, not in the ground. But if you can keep it alive for that long, these are the people I respect. I taught at Art College in Oakland. And some of my colleagues were all PhDs. And some had PhDs in soils and other kind of things. They couldn't keep a darn plant alive for 3 months. They all this knowledge and talking head. Just give me somebody that, maybe not have that much knowledge, but they can keep the darn plant alive. And then what happens if you do Benign Neglect? Then the tree, without killing it, after 30, 40, 50 years, that tree really exudes their will to live. It just will not die. You could parallel that to maybe there's a lot of people that live a hard life, or farmers or something. They got something about them. When I grew up, we were rock and rollers. I don't know what that we were. Nowadays, I don't know. I'm not sure if it's. I can't criticize a generation I don't understand. But there's sometimes you get too spoiled or you get too pampered, and you're not prepared for the real life. What's out there? Some disaster happens. If disasters happen here, I deal with it. I never got stress, and I enjoy pressure. I just don't let it turn into stress or something I can't handle. And I like to be on stage and do a demo. Oh, you look at the tree at the end. Oh, I screwed up. So I learned how to alleviate that. I did demos, and once I do cut off the wrong branch. I'm talking about this branch can't be for the depth, and this branch, and why not cutting it off? Oh, God. So now, in the last 20 demos I did, I'm on stage. So the tree's already on stage. You sit down. So I cut all the branches I didn't want off. I stuck them back in there. So during the demo, God, this guy's genius, look at that. That's exactly what he said. I didn't quite glue them back in, I just shoved them back in there. And then, you have to speed things up. So I did a little wiring. You got a wire. It's part of one of the primary things that you do on bonsai basics. You got to wire the trunk. You do a little curve there. But after that, the old school was don't wire too much. Because then you manipulate it. It's like controlling over the tree. Let it grow a little bit. Let the sun, this is the sun, that's the fall, this is the prevailing wind, this is gravity. If you wire this thing, it's too persistent. It just will not move, and it won't exude a personality. I learned this with I had a dog when I first got married. Not my wife, it was a pet. I tried to self-discipline this dog. She was a lot of help. She was great. She was half a Akita and half Samoyed. She was a great dog, like a polar bear. She would tear your face off. Watch it. And she was taller than a kid. You get a pound on her, dogs yapping on her. And but then just don't put another big dog around her. That dog was anyway threatened. My dog would tear that dog's face off. I got just some social control. And then I trained her. I tried to for 2 or 3 years, and she would never obey anything. Never sat, never spoke. And then she kind of gave me that look. Are you kidding me? I'm not gonna do this. And then finally I learned that. I finally won. I got her to sit, behave, and do this. And then I realized I had trained a robot. I took her personality away. It's like she was just following you around and docile. So I learned, I undid all that. And then I realized that, when she watched her, she had like 10 different kind of barks. You could tell when she wanted a treat. I had a special one, and she could do all the tricks. 10 in a row. Otherwise, are you kidding me? But that's part of this phase of the talk is the essence of the tree. You cannot, in my opinion, you cannot get to the essence of the tree unless you let the tree do what it needs to do. And there's elements really get a big factor in how the tree develops. And there's the sun side. In the old group, they never rotated the trees. So the trees get outside. But it gets kind of asymmetrical. You'll really find that in the landscape community. You got a tree in the ground, you can't turn around. So there's always a side that's dominated by the south and the west sun. It's the prevalent sun. So therefore, the north and east side are the shade side. The sun's never there. So that's where the branches die, that's where you negative spaces. Look at the old trees, there's always a space. You can just see how they were situated on some bench in someone's garden. So that's where you try to pay attention. This is the wind, this is sun, this is gravity. And once it gets too lopsided, you have to correct that. But I will take you through, I don't know how much time we have, but I'll show you some calendar pictures, and then I'll show you the tree and what the thinking was.
On that note, I'm thinking, we're just had about an hour or so of conversation, and I'm wondering, maybe one more question from me, and then maybe we'll take a break to do the book signing, because some people might want to do the book signing, and then we can pick it up again with questions and answers, and maybe go over the bonsai, because I think that might be a good thing. So, the one thing I wanted to, this is my observation from talking to you two, is it goes back to the business side, but it's really more holistic than that. That you two are so incredibly generous, and I think it feeds into so much of your practice. Whether it's it's not like I've known you for many years. It's only maybe perhaps 2 years or so, and both of you have been so generous and accepting, and actually to our family. You two have been so kind to us, and I think it feeds into your businesses. It's part of you. I also think somehow it's part of the Sansei, reflection of the Sansei culture. I wondered if you had something to say about that, Kenny.
What's the point? What's the point of it if you can't share? I spent my whole life studying plants, and you want want people to become better, more knowledgeable gardeners. You just want to sell them something. You didn't sell plants, you actually sold knowledge. And they can come in and you can ask you a question, and you don't have to buy anything. If you give you a little piece of knowledge, they'll come back. You know, so it's a mutual thing. But I think if you do get to a position where you can actually give people more knowledge or make them better, whatever it is that you feel, I think that's really the key. And that's what I always strive to do, is not to make people smarter, more educated gardeners, and by extension become better ecologists, understand biological processes. So that's basically what my business philosophy was. I think it does have something to do with growing up in the community I grew up in. It was a very kind of nurturing environment. And I want to kind of pass that on.
Yeah, obviously, how you grow up and it will affect you the way you approach life. But for me, talking about soundstage, it's a glorious lineage of first generation being immigrants, second generation being interned in World War II, and they persevered. And the term was called Aman, bear them bearable, but with dignity and grace. You come back and you can sit there and wallow in your sorrow. You can pick yourself up. Don't wait for a government assistance or something. And we're in this building, this is the MIS building, but my father-in-law was in MIS. It's like in the internment camps, but you get out if you go in the army. Great, you're in prison here, but you go in the army and fight for what you freedom and democracy. But he was bilingual, so he was MIS. They were the ones that did interpreting, if they were sent to Southeast Asia. You try to get the Japanese soldiers at the end of the war to get out of the caves, surrender. You need to interpret documents. You need to. Well, that's what he did. But then you can't call me typical. I mean, there's some of the values I have of my parents. Rock and roll was it. Boy, I knew more about Marvin Gaye and Screams and Temptations, James Brown. I got arrested, so that's anti-Japanese. You embarrass your parents. I gotta do what I gotta do to protect myself. But I am happy, and I have to define things differently now. Because Japanese culture. I realize I'm not Japanese. I lived in Japan for 2 years, and I'm not Japanese, man. It's a different society, different rules. I used to describe myself as whack-a-mole, sensible playland, a little game, and little holes, and then you got a mallet, and these artificial moles that come out, you got to whack them on the head. Bang, bang, bang. I would be like that if I was in Japan. If I spoke out, hey, whack-a-mole, you get pounded down. I'm Japanese Japanese American by ancestry, but I am not. It's a foreign country over there. I grew up in Berkeley. Then I had another thought about 20 years ago. I'm not even Japanese American. No, that has the connotation like you're Japanese and American. So now I consider myself American with Japanese ancestry. I appreciate the good in societies or good to what my parents went through, and that was no different than. It was compounded because of Japanese ancestry, but it was just you wanted to be parents. But my parents grew up with different values. Don't be mugging anybody, or don't do this, and don't do that. Go to school. My group was, geez, the parents couldn't wait to get out of the house. We couldn't wait to leave. But there was no expectation. I never was asked to go to Japanese school, Japanese language school. I took Spanish, took French, flunked them both. I lived in Japan 2 years and I still can't speak Japanese. I don't even say my name right. And the instructor says, you don't say your name right. That's it. I guess I'll just keep my mouth shut. Just to speed things up a little bit, do you mind if we, what time does this facility close? 5 o'clock? Well, I mean, those who want something signed, I'd be glad to stick around after. If we're going to go out there, because I needed that calendar, I needed to show you pictures. But you can't express these things without showing you the pictures.
We don't do that. We use the copy for that.
Actually, I do need that for a second.
Oh, that one?
No, I there's one picture I want to. There's one picture I want to show you. And I'm gonna go off through there for like 1 minute. So, sorry. That was in my collection. It's on the wall, and it's a look. That's not how the tree was styled. When I get these things, they're like half dead. It wasn't like these old timers. Hey, look, my tree's in its prime. I'm going to give it to you. After these guys get kind of old and they just can't do the work anymore. So they pass on to me because of my Japanese ancestry. They thought I would do the right thing. But I'm also I'm not in business for it. It's just a hobby. Serious hobby, but an old philosophy was you don't sell your plants. If you came and visited an old timer's garden and you admire something, they're kind of committed to Japanese traditions to give it to you. You go to someone's house, ooh, I really like that doll. Get out of here. But anyway, when I get them, like the person hasn't worked on it for a long time, or there's the family will give it to you. But they don't give me a great one. This thing is dying, and they want it to die in my hand, not in their hands. Here, you want this thing from my father? I really, that's how I came up with all these trees. And I will tell you some of the history of these things when we go over there. But each one has a story, but then maybe 40 of them have the same story. Some used to own them, and then they were like great artists or anything. They're just guys who did bonsai. But I want to show you this. It's like Allison, where are you at? Yeah, me. So I took her to this one place. Benign Neglect estate. It was in Hillsborough. Very fabulous garden. We were friends, and then he was the collector of things. He collected really specimen Japanese black pine landscape trees. And they all had, some came from the Treasure Island exhibit, some came from here, there, all named trees. But I told him, you have to kind of cut that out because you can't match these things in a garden. They're different styles, different emphasis. There's some trees on the left, you go right, and right, on the right, you go left. You got two going left. Can't put them on the same side. You can't put them opposite each other. The one on the right goes, you can't make the one on the right go right, or else it goes out of the garden. But this was, Ed had some trees. He got older and a little more sickly. But this was all passed around. This is Allison when we first went to this place. And that's what that tree I just showed you in the calendar looked like. All the branches are gone on the bottom, and a big old bulbous head. And that's not a bonsai anymore. It starts out that way, but if you look at it, well, that's a bonsai, but it's not. You know, there are 4 rules. If you don't comply to all the rules of what a bonsai is, you know, jazz is jazz. Classical is classical. You can't have this thing, I'll call that classical, it's just like rock and roll. But, you know, it used to be, and you can still get it back to what is a bonsai basic look. That's what I did. I put these back into a form, and so I dictated over these trees. It wasn't my tree, but it's kind of a hard thing because you gotta revive it. But at the same time, as I can't put my personality in the tree. You know, it's somebody else's tree. Ben didn't do this. He bought it from Tosaka Model, we had a nursery. But he bought it like 40 years ago, and then it had been a mature tree at that time, so it has to be, that's like dating things back to the 50s. So then you just pass it on. So again, that tree is now this one. This one took about 35 years. Yeah, and it's still not complete. But you know, when I donated my collection, I said, it's good enough. And then I realized that no one's going to care about what the old look. They're going to contemporize it anyway. Contemporary is just a big, more of a massive dome on the head, a lot of branches. And the old style is through benign neglect, it becomes very sparse. But it's really natural. They die, the branches die where they're supposed to die. I don't want to dirty here. And you have my pen. Good, I knew you were here for a reason. This is it's considered an informal upright, but it's not technically correct. Informal upright is like an S-curve on a trunk. So bonsai basics, there are 5 basic styles, and they're based on nature. The Japanese version of aesthetically pruned trees in a pot. There's a Chinese version, there's a Vietnamese version, there's a South Asia, India, they have their own versions of the same. It's not the same thing. So with the Japanese version, it's very easy to understand. So you use the term bonsai, it's a Japanese term, so you should be thinking about the Japanese work. So this is the informal upright, but the top has to be over the bottom in the informal upright. So you cut all this off, then it's an informal upright. By definition, you can call that a bonsai. It may not look good, but it's still a bonsai. But if you put the top way over here, it's actually going into another category, which is called the slant style. Trunk's here, and the tree goes this way. The top is not over the bottom. There's a full cascade, there's a half cascade, and there's a full upright. The best way to look at that is like your rubber trees. Perfectly straight trunk, top is over the bottom. And those are the 5 basic styles, and it hasn't changed in hundreds of years. I wrote a manual out on bonsai basics. I got all the clubs in California to, you gotta abide by the rule, man. Your club is teaching 7 different kinds of styles. There ain't 7, I mean, there's styles, but not a basic style. I got instructors, they're teaching all this stuff, an Achi system. Get it out, man, it's too complicated. Bonsai basics is bonsai basics. So you look at these trees, and I'll show you where they had this original line, and then through benign neglect, other things started to grow, and then I couldn't replace branches that died out. But in this look, The natural places for these things to die is here, here, a lot of times, this is real light, I got to change the pen. If you have a bottom branch, no light gets to anything, another branch underneath that, so it will die. Just in nature. Plus, if the top gets big, it shades it out. If you have two branches in the same spot, like on a pine, it's a slope. But the one that's oriented to the west will be bigger, and eventually it kills off the branch on the opposite side. Energy goes to the dominant one, not to the subordinate one. If you have an inside part of a curve, the branch will be dead. It's almost impossible to keep that alive. If that branch is going inside the canopy of the tree, there's no light. Once in a while you find an exception. That branch went that way and then it starts to, the contemporary artists cut that off. Because it doesn't abide by this perfect symmetry. And the way I look at it, I keep that because that's the one that just the will live. That becomes the whole tree. I don't care what the rest of the tree lives. It looks like, I want to show you this one that just refused to die. It will find the light. If it don't find the light, it's dead. It just snakes around, that's the whole story. So in Japanese black pine, the story is the bark and the trunk line. So we expose a lot of the tree to show the bark. And it actually takes sunlight to activate it that much more. If you have like a contemporary style, the tree's so full you can't even see the trunk line after a while. In Japan, you can get away with it because the trunks are so beautiful and so big, massive trees. But us, we Americans, we try to do a contemporary style, and it's just like a configuration of branches that are moved around to form this perfect canopy. But you hide some of the bark, you hide the trunk, you hide the movement. So you have this kind of like a cone head. It's a redundancy in the tree. So that's what contemporary is. It's really nice, beautiful work, but it's just, to me, it doesn't tell the story. Well, I got some people say, well, that's this kind of pine is found in the Sierras. I don't look like that. I see Sierra trees, big tall things, and canopy here, look at this snags here and there, as opposed to this little thing that's perfectly perfect and rounded. Wow, this tree is found in the snow, but that's not the look of a tree with snow. I used to collect ponderosa pines in Wyoming and Colorado, and go in the domes. These trees are all twisted down and windswept. It's a different kind of windswept. There's wind up there, but then also the snow squashes this thing down. The winter ones. So there's a different look. So if you did that on your tree, I can tell you, I've seen that. Or New Orleans, you have bald cypress there. The New Orleans people, they wanted to redefine how we style that tree. We styled it as a redwood-looking thing. Pointed top, straight up and down. They said, no, it's called a flat top style. So this pretty straight trunk, and also it starts to move out like that. So that's what you find in the bayous. So, bonsai is evolving, it's changing. But unfortunately for me and these pines that I had, it's changed to a point where people, they bought my trees, actually. This is great stock. They bid it for thousands of dollars. That's not stock. It's a finished product as far as I'm concerned. Oh, this is, I can do wonders with this thing. And there's a pictorial on the internet. This is what I got from Dennis's auction. This is how I improved it. It's not just me. It's like, mine's an offshoot of what started in the 50s. And again, it's not just a look. It's a story of people that planted from seed. It's the story that has. I appreciate that, but I realize again that this is a thing of the past. I'm a thing of the past. Again, you'll be the ones that are. How come they say, what's wrong with this pine here? Because the head is not over here, and therefore it's not upright. And people, I used to bust a lot of people, but privately. Guys, well, this is what nature does. You don't know anything about nature. It doesn't do that. I'm not the gift of nature, but you sure aren't. But it's business. People promote themselves that way. You got schools, and this is my philosophy, how I'm going to change American Bonsai. It's changing from the left to the right to the left. But don't tell me that you're the bonsai gift. You send it from the sky. Some people you catch in, I enjoyed that. I put you in a box. Oh, this tree is, it's old. I'm looking at this and I styled it as if they were old. I said, that ain't old. There's no bark on the trunk. It's like the bottom third, if it has bark on it, the tree is about 25 years old. You go about 50% up, it's about 50 years old. And you go up to the neck, it's about 75 years old. And then when it gets on the branches, it's 75 and above. So I got this from the World's Fair, or my grandfather did this. Come on, man, that tree is too young. Daniel said he has maples. You tell the age of an old maple? It's not, if you're really good, you see how it looks. You can sense that it's an old tree. Otherwise, it says gray bark. If it's on the bottom third of the tree is about 25 years old. It's like people, the older you get, the grayer you get. You get this tree that's the bark is up here, it's about 50, 60 years old. And it gets up there, it's 75 plus. And maples can live a long time, but generally, in the bonsai world, they take on a different characteristic. You keep pruning the maple to trim it, and it'll form a knuckle or knot after a while on a tree. Slowly, all the new shoots come from the same spot, the swollen parts. So it's un-bonsai-like. So you can't hide in a maple because the leaves fall off. We call this thing called woody solid way. We have a lot of our maple shows, with the leaves off. And that's what they do in Japan. We tend to show trees in fall color. Oh, nice and red. The leaves fall off, you got this really ugly mess underneath there. And poor craftsmanship. So no one here shows these trees too much in the winter silhouette. In Japan, that's all they do. It's business. So going back to the same thing, it's like, if you can, there's some great shows. If you show your tree in winter silhouette because it is, and you win the prize, people know how great you are. They hire you. And this is business. And they refer that way in the catalogs. This is the exhibition catalog. Look at page 45. There's a beech tree on page 45. It's for sale. They use it as a little catalog. Even though this is a great show with show trees. These trees, when they get to that level, they're like $500,000, $1 million. But I was working in the workshop, and my instructor, we were getting ready for a Kyoto show. And it's called Taikon 10. It's November. It gets a little bit fall color. It's a little bit later there than some other areas. Even though it's cold there, but our tree was beautiful. I mean, there's different versions of red, orange, and purple in there. He wanted me to prep the trees. I got my tweezers and I started pulling out some brown leaves here and there. He said, "Oh no, take all the leaves off." It's like I took some off, and are you sure? Take them all off. He grabbed that branch and I don't want to show him. Who cares about fall color? He said, I want to show you how good I am. Because this is, they'll hire me. So that's the business aspect. And nowadays, bonsai has changed from a hobby to a business. And to me, it's like, that's fine. Business is business, but I was lucky. Tree pruning is my business. But bonsai was my hobby. And it's like, gotta have fun. You're not having fun, and people gotta hire other people to work on your own bonsais. You buy it, like my auction trees, you buy those things and, ooh, I spent $10,000 on that tree. I don't want to work on it myself. You hire a professional. And that's the way we operate nowadays. You buy the tree, you get it worked on, and you exhibit it, your club exhibit or convention exhibit, and you put your name on it. You know?
We're at 90 minutes, so I'm wondering if we should take a break and then do some group signing and then continue the conversation for the dedicated, perhaps. So, should we take a break for but before we do that, can we just have a round of applause for the guys?